And so I guess let's begin with Moses. What priesthood key does he restore?
So Moses in verse 11 comes and he committed unto us the keys of the gathering of Israel. Now, isn't that fascinating? You could circle the word gathering. Look back over at verse 9. Yea, the hearts of thousands and tens of thousands, I guess today we would say millions, shall greatly rejoice in consequence of the blessings which shall be poured out and the endowment which my servants have been endowed in this house. And then in verse 10 he talks about taking this to foreign lands. We've had a few missionaries go up into Canada, but that doesn't exactly qualify as foreign lands, plural. It's these keys that Moses restored for the gathering of all of the tribes of Israel. What did Moses do with Egypt? He went in and gathered all of the tribes of Israel and took them out into the wilderness where they could meet God. That was the intent. Now keep in mind, if you look at the overview of, there's Jerusalem. Egypt is clear down here in the Mediterranean Sea. Keep in mind, Abraham's family began in the Promised Land, then they went down into Egypt. Now they have to be brought back out of Egypt, and they wanted to get in, but they couldn't, so they have to wander for 40 years, and then eventually, 40 years later, they come back in. Looks a little bit like the plan of salvation. Looks a little bit like what you and I did. We leave the Promised Land, aka heaven. We come down to Egypt, also known as the earth, and mortality, and a prophet of God, through the direction of Christ leading the people through his presence in the tabernacle, guides us first through a baptism experience, the Red Sea.
Crossing through the water.
That would be
or the Red
Sea. So you come down and then you have a Mount Sinai experience, a temple experience where you get endowed with power. And then you have this wandering experience of mortality in the wilderness where you have heartache and sickness and struggles and trials of your faith until the day comes when you can part that veil, so to speak, and re-enter the Promised Land or re-enter heaven. So this temple power that is given to them and these keys that are given to them to go and gather Israel, to make it so that this story isn't isolated to one teeny tiny group back in 1500 or 1400 BC, but rather that we can turn this into everybody's story across the earth. That key given by Moses is amazingly astronomical in its size.